So, ladies and gentlemen, I made $100,000 in 2 years and 7 months with my windshield repair business. And you probably hear that and you think, well, that's not that crazy. $100,000 isn't that much money. And you did it in 2 years and 7 months. You didn't do it within a year span. And you're right, it isn't that crazy, but it was kind of a big deal to me. When I first started this business, I started it on about a $500 kit and just a determination to actually learn the business and learn business in general, actually. I didn't necessarily have high expectations of the business. I really just wanted to get out of my 9 to 5 and I wanted to start my own business and just do something a little bit different than what I was doing at the time. And I feel like a lot of people that might watch this video are gonna be in the same exact position that I was in, so I figured I'd make this video and hopefully I can help you guys out. So I'm gonna pretty much pull back the curtain on everything that I did to get to that first $100,000 that I made with my business and basically show you guys everything that worked for me and exactly how I got myself from $0 to $100,000 with a windshield repair business. And I kind of want to preface this one more time because I didn't make $100,000 within a 1 year span. I didn't make $100,000 per year at this time. I made $100,000 in total. Now, this isn't profit, this is revenue in my business. And I didn't know that this was a big deal to some people, but I posted a video not too long ago and people really did not like the fact that I didn't say profit. So I'm gonna kind of preface this and tell you guys that, this isn't $100,000 profit. This isn't $100,000 straight into my pocket with my business, but this is my first 2.5 years or so in the windshield repair business. And I did make $100,000, but I have to say it's not all profit. So if you care about that, there's your little disclaimer, but if you don't care about that and you really just want to make some money with the business, then this is going to be a really good video for you. So to start off, the first about 6 months or so in my windshield repair business, it was a little bit rocky. I didn't know anything about the business. I didn't really know how to do windshield repair necessarily. I kind of learned it, but I wasn't very good at all. Really, with windshield repair, you got to practice, and practice makes perfect, basically, with the business. So in the beginning stages, I really wasn't that great. I didn't know anything about business. I didn't know how to market my business. I didn't know anything, really, especially with what I know now. I was a complete novice at the time. So the first 6 months or so were a bit rocky. I wasn't really making much money. I started out to, do everything I could to actually find clients and find these jobs. And I was making anywhere from $1,000 to maybe $3,000 a month. And at this time, I was doing it as like a side hustle, so I wasn't doing it full time. I didn't have that much time to put into the business, but I was kind of hustling every single day, and I was kind of putting in that hard work. At this time, I figured that I didn't really have much money to invest into the business, so I needed to do all of the things that were gonna bring in the money, but basically it's gonna be the harder way to do it. So I had to market to my friends, my family, how to walk parking lots. I had to go find cars out in parking lots that were in the mall or in grocery store parking lots and actually find these cars with rock chips in their windshield. That way I can leave my business card and just show them that I'm there. I can fix the problem that they have. I can fix that rock chip that they have. And I like to give them a little bit of context as well, letting them know that if they were to let that chip spread and get bigger, then they would have to replace their whole windshield. So I was gonna save them a lot of money. I was gonna save them a lot of time, make it a lot easier for them. And I really just kind of put my feet on the ground and went out and worked. I was really just finding customers the good old fashioned way of, going out there, talking to people and actually trying to get business with them. So like I mentioned, I was going to parking lots, walking the parking lots, leaving my business card. I was going to dealerships, talking to the dealerships, asking them, hey, you guys have anybody that does rock chip repair on your cars? And then I was going to businesses, other businesses that had a fleet of vehicles. That would go to them, ask the same thing. Do you guys have anybody that does rock chip repair on your guys' vehicles to prevent those chips from spreading and getting bigger? And I really just talked to everybody I could. I even went to ATMs. So when I would go to the bank, I would leave my business card on the ATM. That's how desperate I was. I would go to, I remember one time I went to CVS and there was a Redbox machine where you get movies. And I was like, you know what, that'd be a good spot to leave a couple of business cards. I'm gonna leave a couple of business cards here. And I would do that everywhere I would go. So if I would see an ATM or like a Redbox or anything like that, I would just leave business cards on there. When I would walk back to my car, leaving a store, I would look at cars. I would look at windshields. If there's any rock chips, I'll leave my business card there. Any dealership I would drive past, any business I would drive past, I would stop, go inside, try to talk to a manager and ask them if they needed my help. I was doing everything I possibly could the free way. I was putting my feet on the ground. I was going out, working, asking, talking to people, trying to get my business name out there so I can actually make money with my business. I have to say I was absolutely relentless in the beginning stages, and I was trying to find these clients the best way that I possibly could, because honestly I didn't have any money. I couldn't buy advertising, which I'll get into here in a minute, but I couldn't pay for advertising. I couldn't really buy signs. I really couldn't invest too much money into the business because it wasn't bringing in too much at that time, because I didn't have any clients. Nobody knew who I was. I needed to go out and find these clients so I can actually make money to reinvest into the business. And that's one misconception that a lot of people have about business in general is people are just going to come to you. You know, you think that you're just going to start a business and, you know, you put yourself up on Google, on Facebook, on Instagram, and people are just going to come to you wanting to give you money and do business with you as easy as that. But honestly, it's not that easy. Especially in the beginning stages, it's not going to be easy. It's never easy for anyone. Sometimes there's those outliers that, you know, where they can make some good money when they first start out. But honestly, that's usually not the way that it goes. You have to put your feet on the ground. You have to go out there and actually find clients, find people to work with you, and, you know, put in the work to actually, you know, make sure that your business gets up and going. So those first 6 months in business, I was really just grinding it out. I was trying to find clients. I was making a little bit of money, and I was actually finding these clients, but it was hard work. I was going out there. I was putting in a lot of time, talking to a lot of people, and really just, you know, hoping that I would find customers and find clients to work with. Then after that, I kind of was wondering, how can I scale my business? How can I do this a little bit easier? So the next, I don't know, I would say 12 months after that, so I'm about, you know, a year and a half into it, there was one key technique that I found and one strategy that I began to use that actually completely changed my business. During this time, I started to dabble into Instagram advertising. My thought process behind this was, you know what, there's people that are at home all day long. During this time, this is when the craziness was happening in the world, and I figured there's a lot of people at home. They're probably on their phone. They're probably scrolling through Instagram, because that's one of the things that I was doing at the time for sure. So I figured a lot of other people were going to be just scrolling through Instagram. So you know what? I'm going to try to get into this Instagram advertising thing. I really wanted to build up my social medias for my business because I knew that social media was a really powerful tool to use. So what I wanted to do was actually get into advertising and start buying ads on Instagram so I can basically advertise to my local area. And in the beginning, I started with a super small budget because, again, I wasn't making that much money. I wasn't bringing in very much money. It was working. I was making some money, but I didn't have that much money to actually invest into my business because I wanted to take some profits and, you know, use that for whatever the case I needed. But essentially, I wanted to start with a really small budget just to see how it worked. Again, I didn't really know anything about advertising. I didn't really know how to do it very well. I, you know, watched YouTube videos, stuff like that, but I didn't really know how to advertise my business that well. So I wanted to just kind of dabble into it. I started with a super small budget and I was starting to see results. Now, since I'm a local service-based business, I needed to advertise to people around me. So I started to just do a 10-mile radius. I didn't want to drive too far and go too far out to do these jobs, which is one thing that I kind of messed up on in the beginning. So I'll kind of touch on that a little bit later in this video. But all I did was about a 10-mile radius just to find clients that were in my area. And once I started doing this, I noticed that I was getting a lot of eyeballs on my business. I got a lot of followers. I got a lot of people that were seeing it. I actually had a lot of inquiries, people asking me, hey, like, what do you do? Like, I have one of these rock chips. Can you repair it? How much do you charge? Blah, blah, blah. So I was getting a lot of people that were interested in the service that I was offering. And essentially, I was getting a lot of new clients that way. So I began to see results. I was seeing that, you know, people were looking at my ad. People were messaging me from my ad, you know, asking about, I have one of these, I have a rock chip, how much do you charge? You know, I didn't know you could do this, blah, blah, blah. So I was getting a lot of interest in my business with these ads, and I was actually getting customers from these ads as well. And since I was so new at business and advertising and all of that, I realized, you know, I was looking at it and I saw that, you know, I wasn't making too much more money than I was before without advertising. Because I was looking at it in a way where I wanted to convert every single person that saw that or every single person that messaged me from my ad to a paying customer. And I realized that that's really not the way to look at it. That's not the way to go about it. The biggest thing about advertising is getting eyeballs on your business. Not every single person is going to be a paying customer. Not every single person is going to want to work with you right away. Maybe they might see your ad a few times before they finally message you, or maybe they message you and then they work with you later on, whatever the case may be. But not every single person that sees your ad is going to be a paying customer. And that was something I had to learn as I went. But essentially, I knew that I needed to get eyeballs on my business. I soon realized that the more eyeballs that I was getting, the more money I was going to be able to make. So I started to get more in depth with advertising. I started to change up the creative that I was using. I was using maybe a before and after photo. Maybe I wanted to change that before and after photo. Maybe I wanted to make it into a better one, or maybe I wanted to do a video, or maybe I wanted to do a review type creative or picture that I would advertise to people. Then I started to mess around with interests, so the things that people were interested in my area. Or I would start messing around with the budget. Maybe I, spend a little bit more to reach more people. Maybe I'll spend a little bit less, whatever the case may be. But I was kind of messing with all of the advertising methods that I could use to try to, actually make it a little bit better so I can get more eyeballs and actually essentially get more customers. But what I had to do was continue to advertise, because this didn't happen overnight. I wasn't going to, run an ad for a week and then expect to get a bunch of customers and a bunch of leads and expect to make a bunch of money. You have to, actually do this for a long period of time. You have to spend money on advertising, and you have to, go through the trial and error. So I was going through that trial and error. I was trying to get my business known. And at this point, I was making, a little bit more than what I was making before when I was just, feet on the ground, trying to work and trying to find these clients. I had my advertising on the back burner, and I was actually pushing my business out to people, so more people were seeing me, and I started to make a little bit more money. At this time, I was making probably anywhere from $3,000 to like $6,000 on a really, really good month. So on average, I was making about $4,000 or $5,000 every month with the advertising that I was doing on Instagram. And I started to mess with my advertising. I started to mess with my budget. I started to kind of mess with it, little tiny tweaks here and there just to make it a little bit better, or what I thought might make it a little bit better. But I started to do this, and I was consistently making about $5,000, maybe $6,000, sometimes $4,000, sometimes even lower, $3,000, just kind of depended on the month, and really how busy I was, and also how much I was working. But essentially I was making anywhere between, $3,000 to $6,000 every single month. And honestly, it was great. $5,000 a month or so, more or less, is pretty good for most people. And that kind of supplemented my income at my 9-to-5 job when I was working that. And it was a lot more money than what I was making before, when I was making $1,000 to $3,000 a month on a good month in the beginning. But $4,000 or $5,000 was pretty cool. But essentially, once you start making that for a little while, you realize that it's really not that much money, and you want to make more money. And that's where I was. I wanted to make more money because I had my own business. I was making my own dollar. I was writing my own paycheck. Why can't I make more than $6,000 a month? I want to be making $10K a month. I want to be making $15K a month. If more, the more the better. But essentially, I needed to raise up my standards and get to that next level. So at this point, I'm making about $5,000 a month. I'm about 1.5 to 2 years into my business. And honestly, I got kind of stagnant. I was making pretty good money. I was consistently making about $5,000 a month, but I wanted to make more money. So what do I do to get to that next level, right? So like any good business owner, they would go back to the drawing board, figure out what they're doing wrong, figure out what they can improve on, and kind of go from there and just kind of go through the trial and error on figuring out what exactly they need to do to level up and get to that next step in their business. So I looked at it like this. I had my dealerships, I had my businesses that I was working with, I had clientele, I had all the people that I was working with. Some people get more chips within the year. They would get one, they would get another, so they'll call me back because I did a good job. I would get more clients through the advertising. I would get a lot of new clients through that way. And then I had my old clients as well that, might get a chip later down the road. So I was staying a little bit consistent, but I needed to make a tweak into my business to where I could get more eyeballs on it. I can get more clients and stay a little bit more consistent with more work. I eventually came up with the idea of basically putting everything that I was doing on steroids. So I figured I was advertising. Now I need to invest more money into the advertising. I can't just spend this amount that I've been spending for the past, year or so. I need to up that. Maybe I'll double it. So I doubled my advertising, and then I figured, if I'm gonna be spending more money on ads, I might as well broaden the range. So like I said before, I was only doing about a 10-mile radius that was close to me in my area. I figured, I'm in a pretty big city. I'm gonna start advertising towards, 20 miles away, 30 miles away, just so I can get more people, because every mile that you put into advertising, you're going to see a lot more people. So if I can actually double that or triple what I was doing before, I'm gonna see a lot more people, coupled with the amount that I'm spending. So if I double my ad spend every single day, I'm going to be seeing a lot more people that way as well. And then I thought, you know what? It's not enough. I need to do more. So I said, okay, cool. I'm going to be spending more money. I'm going to be advertising in a broader range. So I'm going to be going out a little bit further. What else can I do? Then I thought that I was kind of limited on Instagram, right? So I was just advertising on Instagram. It was only people on Instagram that were seeing my ads. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna start advertising on Facebook as well. There's a lot of people on Facebook. There's a lot of people scrolling through their feed on Facebook. Why am I not on Facebook? And these 3 methods that I used completely changed my business. Once I put all of these 3 things into my business, I really saw a dramatic change in not only the lead flow that I was getting, but the quality of leads that I was getting, as well as all the work that I was getting. I was making way more money than I was before just because I did these little tweaks in my business. So of course you're probably thinking, well, you're spending more money on advertising, you're spending more time driving to these customers, you're driving further, blah, 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 which you're right, I am. I'm spending more money, I'm spending a little bit more time on doing these jobs because I have a lot more jobs and I'm driving a little bit further to do them, but this is windshield repair. This business is fairly quick and easy every day. It's not hard to do. It's not very time consuming because all these jobs only take about 30 minutes to do. So I can get, anywhere from 4 to 7 done a day and still have a lot of free time throughout my day. So it's really not that much more work. Yeah, I'm spending more money, but that's what you got to do in business. You have to invest into your business. And if you want people to know about your business, you got to invest in the advertising and the marketing, because if you don't, nobody's going to know what you do. So I don't really mind that. It's okay because I'm obviously positive on my cash flow. I'm making money. I'm profitable in my business. So I don't really mind spending more money to acquire a customer, because essentially I know it's going to pay off in the long run. But in all honesty, it's not that much of a difference. I'm making a lot more money and I'm not really working too much harder. I'm working a little bit harder just because I have more clients, but it's not too much of a difference because I'm making a lot more money, and it's just, that's the ultimate goal in my business. I want to make more money. I want to scale my business. And essentially that was the whole point of getting into business, was to make more money. So it's not that big of a deal, especially with the windshield repair business. Just the way that this is structured and the way that everything works, it's not that much of a difference for me. My whole goal is to make more money. If you don't want to work harder to make more money, then you don't deserve to have more money, right? So to kind of get back on track, at this time, once I actually made these tweaks into my business and I started to spend more and invest more into the business and kind of broaden my range of where I was advertising, I basically doubled my income at that point. I was making way more money. I was working a little bit harder, yes, but essentially it was all worth it because I was making a lot more money. And I continued to do this, and I continued to make adjustments, and this video is gonna go on forever if I continue to talk about that. But at this point, this is where I made my first $100,000 with windshield repair. And I calculated, I was on my computer the other day just checking out my finances and all this stuff. And I realized that was when I made my first $100,000, was about 2 years and 7 months into my windshield repair business. And again, I wanted to, remind you that, of course, that's not a 100% profit. That's not what I'm making. That's not what I'm bringing home necessarily into my pocket, into profits. But that was $100,000 in revenue. It wasn't that much money, but you got to remember, I didn't start any other business before this. I didn't know anything about business. It's all a learning curve as I was going. So, it was kind of a big deal to me. I was making my own paycheck. I was writing my own paycheck. I was doing something on my own. I had my own business. I could wake up whenever I want. I don't have a boss telling me what to do. And that was the ultimate goal. I wanted the freedom in my life, because before this, I didn't have that freedom. I was being told what to do. I didn't like my job, and everything about that, I just didn't really like it at all. My life was just a lot different than it is now. So during this time when I was starting to build up my business, it was a grind. It wasn't easy. It was a grind. I wasn't making very much money, but I continued to improve as I went, and I started to make more money as I started to improve my business and figured everything out. And the reason I wanted to make this video is because some of you might be in that situation. Whether you're doing windshield repair, doing any other business, you might be in those building stages in the beginning of your business, and you might see that you're not making very much money. You might see that you're putting in a lot more effort than what you're kind of getting back from it. But essentially, if you really want to start your own business, and if you really want to make this work, whatever you're doing, then you have to stick it out. You have to kind of push through it. You have to grind it out. You have to figure out things. You have to do trial and error. You have to go through the hardships of building your own business, because if you don't, you're not going to learn. Honestly, I learned so much in those beginning stages of my business that ultimately it's kind of priceless. You know, all those things that I learned going through those building stages in the beginning of my business. And I'm still doing it now. I'm still learning. I'm still, you know, going through these trial and error phases. I'm learning every single day. But during those first, you know, 6 months, those first 12 months, that first 2 years, I learned so much because I was just so, I was a sponge. I was basically, you know, taking in everything that I would see, and I would try to adjust as I could. And obviously the whole story that I just told, you know, there was a lot of stuff I learned in there, and, you know, every little change that I did into my business, I saw a return on that. Continue to make more money, and I continue to improve in my business. So that's the whole goal. So I'm hoping that anybody that's watching this is, you know, maybe you're in the same position. I hope that kind of helped you. You know, to kind of show you that it's not easy. It's going to take time. You know, 2 years, 7 months to make my first $100,000 in a business is nothing crazy. It's nothing like that impressive, but it was a big deal to me. And, you know, if you're in the same position, then, you know, it's probably a big deal to you as well. So hopefully that kind of helped you out. Hopefully you got a better understanding of exactly where I was, and, you know, how I went through it and what I did to kind of, you know, get myself to that next stage. I know when I was starting in my own windshield repair business, I needed to watch videos like this that kind of gave me that motivation, or just, you know, kind of saw other people doing the same thing that I was doing to kind of understand it a little bit better, because sometimes you just want to give up. Sometimes you don't want to, you know, you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, so to say. So you definitely need to, you know, talk to other people and see what other people are doing to kind of give you that motivation, or to kind of help you along the way. So again, I hope that helped you guys. And it was pretty cool to, you know, kind of remind myself of exactly how I got to the point that I'm at now, you know, making way more money than I was at my job, making way more money than I was in the beginning stages of my business. And it was pretty cool to kind of, you know, kind of reminisce a little bit about that. So I will see you guys in the next video, and that's all I got. Peace.